Following the Russian invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, the EU responded by, among other measures, temporarily opening its market to Ukraine for 1 year, from June 4, 2022 to June 5, 2023. For policymakers, this served to deepen the ties between the Union and the besieged country in order to support its economy. However, there has been some concern from the European Union's poultry industry about the impacts that unfettered access to the single market is having. So let's talk about those impacts. Ukraine as a country is a sizable poultry producer, but it's not Europe's biggest. In 2021, Ukraine produced about 1.3 million tons of fresh chilled chicken meat. That puts it behind Poland and the United Kingdom, but ahead of the rest of the EU. And around a third of that was exported, amounting to around 460,000 tons. That's a lot of chicken. In June 2022, one of the trade barriers that was lifted was a quota on the amount of poultry that could enter the EU from Ukraine tariff-free. Poultry imports from Ukraine jumped. The total for 2022 was around 50,000 tons higher than that for 2021, a year-on-year increase of 63% and an all-time high for Ukraine's exports to the EU. So you might get the impression that the EU's move had significantly increased the amount of meat coming in, right? Well, there were a couple of other things going on. That same year saw a sizable fall in imports from the United Kingdom, a fall which was much greater in volume terms than the increase from Ukraine. On top of that, other export partners, such as Brazil and Thailand, also sent more poultry meat to the EU than ever before, as European production suffered because of bird flu. So it's not quite a simple cause and effect story. Beyond trade flows, the war has also affected production costs. Feed prices in Europe have been very high, not least because the war in Ukraine has disrupted the normal grain and oilseeds flows, but those commodities have stayed in Ukraine and thus lowered feed prices there. Still, it's important to note that these cost savings for Ukrainian producers are offset by other factors, such as electricity outages, which raise the cost of production. Moreover, the complications the war has imposed on logistics have severely cut Ukraine's poultry exports to non-EU destinations, like former Soviet states or Africa. MHP, Ukraine's leading producer, whose operations are highly vertically integrated, said in its Q3 report that it incurred around $45 million in war-related expenses over the first 7 months of the conflict, and that its chicken meat exports from Ukraine had declined by 14% year-on-year. AVEC, an association representing poultry producers and the poultry trade of the EU countries, has said that it supports the 1-year liberalisation enacted by the EU, but that its extension would be a, quote, serious concern. Looking forward, the duty-free regime is set to expire in June. Should it be renewed, or should Ukraine's application for membership into the EU progress, the admission of higher volumes of Ukrainian-produced poultry into the bloc might become the new normal.